Let me get into this second. I'll watch Secret Service go crazy. Thank you.
I mean, if you actually drove it around, it would really be wild.
Beautiful. Wow.
I get it, this other side.
That's beautiful. This is a different panel than I've had. Everything's computer. That's beautiful. Wow.
Give Secret Service one.
That's beautiful.
Can you start it?
Should I? Let's hear the engine.
You gonna get it wrapped in gold?
So
You don't want me to drive it, do you?
I saw Biden do a
I'll tell you,
test
it
loop
could
here
be-
once in the Jeep.
Yeah, but
Very easy.
that's you're the only one that saw it. This is beautiful. Whoa! Should I get in? Let me get in this second.
On the Tesla?
Do you want my notes?
Yeah.
They gave me notes. I said, I'm not Biden. I don't need notes.
Yeah.
This is a different panel than I've had. Everything's computer. You don't want me to drive it, do you? Think Biden could get into that car? I don't think so. This is beautiful.
Yo, he don't waste an opportunity to say something about Biden or put his foot on Biden's neck for some reason. Like, Biden lives rent-free in his head. Like, he don't waste an opportunity. I was just sitting here like, how many more times do you think he'll say it? There it goes again. He says his name again. Like, these two right here. But that ain't even the thing, though. The thing is that we've talked about how the Tesla stock is doing. Do y'all think this is a ploy? Of course it's a ploy to try to get the numbers up. I don't think this is going to help, though, but I get what they're doing. You know what I mean? They got to do something right now.
Well, Elon Musk said his Cybertrucks would be waterproof enough to float in water, but yesterday one had to be pulled out of Ventura Harbor. Take a look at this. Firefighters say somebody was trying to launch a jet ski when the vehicle slid into the water. By the time crews arrived, it was completely submerged. They had to send a diver in to hook it up to a tow truck. Nobody was hurt. Well, Elon Musk said his...
That doesn't look like it could float to me. In fact, it sank. You sure he said that? I hope he didn't say that. You know what I mean? I hope he didn't say that. It's kind of like, well, because remember he said the windows were indestructible, and then they threw like, what was that, the baseball or hit it with a bat or something like that and shattered or whatever, it broke. Yeah, he got to stop putting those type of statements out there.
5 years ago today, the World Health Organization declared COVID a pandemic.
2 days later, President Trump declared a national emergency.
Schools and businesses closed. Americans hunkered down at home and wore masks when they ventured out.
By the end of the year, COVID had killed nearly 400,000 people in this country.
A vaccine was developed in record time, but an answered prayer soon became a political issue that split the nation. Should Americans be forced to take the vaccine?
In May of 2023, the World Health Organization said the pandemic was over and President Biden ended the emergency. It had lasted 1,154 days, and to date, there have been nearly 1.25 million U.S. COVID deaths.
But there is another casualty, trust in government. In polls, more than half of Americans said health officials lied about the effectiveness of vaccines and masks. Fewer than half plan to get the latest booster.
And 5 years after the pandemic began, 2/3 of Americans say we are not prepared for the next one.
5 years ago today.
Hey, my PTSD flared up. Just thinking back to those times and what all we endured, man. That was a rough time, bro. I bet if I go back and look at my videos, my beard was wild crazy, even though I let my beard get wild crazy sometimes anyway. I don't care. I'm home. Whatever. Man, remember that? We couldn't go nowhere. Then when you went out, you were nervous. You were scared. You looked like a deer caught in headlights. Like somebody like coughed or sneezed near you. You were nervous. You were looking around. We were real judgy and profiling people around those times, man. It's hard to believe that was 5 years ago. Boy, remember being in the house with people and you were tired of them? I remember that video of the little girl that went viral. She was just like, I'm tired of this house. She was just walking around. I'm tired. I hate this house. I hate this. She just kept saying it. Boy.
We are on the ground in the Dominican Republic, right outside of the resort complex where Sudiksha Kunanki was last seen more than 5 days ago. Authorities are scrambling by land, by air, by water here in the Dominican Republic, trying to find the missing 20-year-old University of Pittsburgh student who officials say was last seen in the early morning hours of Thursday down by the beachfront entrance at the resort. Officials say she was with a group spotted on surveillance video heading down to the beach, and eventually her friends came back from the beach, but authorities believe around 4:15 in the morning on Thursday, March 6th, she disappeared, and she has not been seen or heard from since. Her parents clearly distraught on the ground in the Dominican Republic now.
They're not able to find my daughter.
On Monday, the sheriff from where Kunanki lives in Virginia said that her friends, as of Monday, were still being held in the Dominican Republic for further interviews. Officials in the U.S. working in tandem with officials here in the Dominican Republic.
They're doing everything in their power to get to the bottom of this.
Investigators have revealed that they've also interviewed a young man who was down at the beach around that time, but at this point, authorities say it's not clear if foul play was involved with her disappearance. In a statement, Rio Hotel says it's deeply concerned about the disappearance of one of our guests and is working closely with the local authorities, including the police and the Navy, to conduct a thorough search. So we're in Punta Cana.
That just sent their business down the drain. Like, oof. Who's gonna want to go stay there now? Now, my question to y'all is, who do y'all think is top suspect or suspects? Y'all think it's the friends? You think it's the people she met? Because they said they met some dudes. She met some dude or some dudes that they met while they were there and they were hanging out with, man, which we gotta normalize not doing that at resorts, man. And I know that sucks because most of us are friendly people by nature. So we're looking to have a good time and meet new people, you know? But these days, you just can't nowadays, man.
Outside of this resort complex, it's pretty quiet out here. Don't see any police lights, no crime scene tape, anything like that. So on the outside, it looks like business as usual, but we know that the beachfront has been a site of quite a bit of searching from authorities. And again, we're talking about more than 5 days as of Tuesday since this 20-year-old college student was last seen. Her family here trying to find out what happened to their daughter.
And we are seeing the result of an intense sell-off today on Wall Street. It happened amid mixed messages from the Trump administration about the prospects of a recession and growing fears of an escalating trade war between the U.S. and its top economic partners. The Dow today at one point tumbling more than 1,000 points and finishing the session down roughly 900 points you see there. That's a drop of about 2%. The losses were even worse across the other major indices, especially the tech-heavy NASDAQ. That lost roughly 4% of its value today. Now, that slide only adding to the rough stretch for investors after stocks fell across the board last week as well.
Well, Elon Musk experienced the 7th worst day of his life today, with the stock market crashing on fears of a Donald Trump-caused recession, which Wall Street is calling the Trump session. Getting a recession named after you as president is not easy. It usually is not so clear, not an absolute straight line of causation from presidential policies to a recession. And so no one called any of the recessions of our lifetimes a president recession, a Bush recession, or a Reagan recession, or, none of that. They did.
Is that true? I could have swore we named a few of those recessions. I just can't think off the top of my head right now. But there's certainly a presidential name attached to one of those recessions we went to. And see, that's what they be banking on, us not remembering. But I'm gonna look back and see.
They didn't try to do that with the name of any other president during our lifetimes. Of course, there were no recessions under the last 3 Democratic presidents, President Biden, President Obama, President Clinton. Donald Trump has failed miserably in his attempt to blame
That don't mean we were in a good shape, though. Like, that's where they try to sway the conversation right there. I hate those tactics that both sides try to use. Nah, that definitely doesn't mean we were in a good spot.
What even he suggests may be a looming recession on President Biden, who handed Donald Trump the highest performing American economy in history and the highest performing stock market in history.
Lyle and Eric Menendez are serving life in prison without parole for killing their parents. They say it was in self-defense for enduring years of sexual abuse from their father. NBC News correspondent Camila Bernal joins us now from Los Angeles. Camila, this was one of the last routes, essentially, for the brothers to get out of prison. I mean, tell us now about the DA's decision.
It's still unclear exactly what is going to happen with the resentencing, and here's why. The district attorney says, yes, it can go forward if the judge decides to go forward with this resentencing. So resentencing is sort of a unique law to California. It can be started either by the courts or by the district attorney. In this case, what we've come to is that the previous district attorney had started this motion of a resentencing. The DA today saying he is actually withdrawing that motion that the previous DA put in place for this resentencing. So what happens is it then falls at the hands of the judge. The question here will be, will the judge move forward with that resentencing, knowing that the DA withdrew that motion?
The Trump administration now wants immigrants to deport themselves using this cell phone app. It's called CBP Home, and it's a replacement for the CBP One app. That was created under the Biden administration for immigrants to claim asylum and get appointments at the border.
We shut that down on day one and didn't want it to be utilized anymore.
This app is more about getting immigrants out rather than letting them in. There's a new intent to depart feature where immigrants can declare that they intend to leave the United States. Now, of course, DHS says that if they do it this way and they go away voluntarily and track it on the app, they'll be avoiding that harsher process. And DHS Secretary Kristi Noem says that those who leave may have a pathway to come back legally, but it's not exactly clear what that would look like. In the past, a lot of times when someone comes in illegally, they have to go back to their home country for a long time. It could be as many as 2, 5, or 10 years before they can apply to come in legally again. And even then, they're not always guaranteed a spot. This kind of tracking system is really in line with what we've already seen from the Trump administration. It's not exactly clear how they're going to be enforcing the use of this app. It could just be a voluntary way to get more people to self-deport and to be able to track it. Just because someone leaves, if they don't track it, they probably won't be in any kind of trouble. This is just another tool they want to be able to show that those numbers are getting higher. The Trump administration now...
What do y'all think? Y'all trust it? Do you think this is what it is? Are they giving them an opportunity to go willingly and have an opportunity to come back the right way? Almost sort of like a no harm, no foul type of situation? Or this is a way to say, we don't really know where you are. Ha! They on the app. Got them. like, what is... I don't know, man. I've never heard of anything like this before. This is brand new here. But they pulling out all the stops with this situation right here, man.
Бажаю здоров'я, шановні українці, українки. Щойно була доповідь нашої делегації про зустріч з американською командою в Саудівській Аравії. Розмова була хорошою, конструктивною. Наша позиція абсолютно чітка. Україна прагне миру від першої секунди війни. Нашою українською пропозицією на цю зустріч з американцями було 3 речі. Це тиша в небі, ракети, бомби, далекобійні, дрони і тиша на морі. І реальні заходи встановлення довіри до всієї цієї ситуації, в якій триває дипломатія. І я хочу подякувати президенту Трампу за конструктивність у розмови наших команд. І сьогодні в розмові була пропозиція саме американської сторони зробити перший крок одразу далі. І на 30 днів спробувати встановити повне припинення вогню. Україна сприймає цю пропозицію. Ми готові зробити такий крок. Сполучені Штати Америки мають переконати Росію зробити це. Важливим елементом розмови сьогодні є готовність Америки відновити оборонну допомогу Україні. Також допомогу розвідданими.
Why are the 20 million people who are definitely dead marked as alive in the Social Security database? Why were hundreds of millions of dollars of Small Business Administration loans were given out to people aged 11 and under, according to the Social Security? I mean, like, these must be some very enterprising 8-year-olds, you know.
And some pretty strong 150-year-olds.
Yes, exactly. As the president said, you know, we have an enormous number.
Loans given out to 11-year-olds? Like, and I know some people feel like he's lying. Some people feel like, oh, he's just throwing out stuff like that. There's no way for us to fact check that at the same time. So, I don't know. But if that's the case, bro, it's so much fraud going on. It ain't the people just sending us the told text messages either. It's more fraud in our government than these dudes sending us the told text messages.
Number of people marked as alive who are 160. He didn't know the country was that healthy.
A report from the Social Security Administration in 2023 showed that 18.9 million people were listed as 100 years or older, but not dead in the database. And the reason why is because it's automated and some of their dates of death didn't show up, but almost none received any payments. Additionally, 2 weeks ago, Donald Trump's own acting Social Security commissioner, his own acting Social Security commissioner said there's no epidemic of people listed as 150 years or older who are collecting benefits. In fact, get this. Right now, according to the 2020 Census Bureau, there are about 80,000 Americans alive over the age of 100 out of 330 million. Sounds about right. 80,000 people. 80,000. Of those 80,000, only 44,000 are getting Social Security checks.
At this point, I don't know who's lying to me. I don't. Who's telling the truth? And this is the messed up part, because we shouldn't feel like that. We should know whether or not people who are over the age of 100 are either still alive, and if they are receiving Social Security, and that if they're not alive, that they're not receiving Social Security. We should be able to know that without trying to decipher through rhetoric whether or not this is true or not. This is crazy. I don't know who's lying.
So they're sitting there going 20 million, 30 million, over it. They know it's a lie. We see Elon Musk lie about it. We see Larry sit there and let him lie about it. We see Larry go on another show talking about it. We see the host of that show not correcting Larry. And it goes on and on and on. Elon Musk didn't say we're going after waste, fraud, and abuse in Medicare. What he said was we got to get rid of Social Security and Medicare. There's about $80 billion right there every year. So just so people don't go, oh, but he was talking about waste, fraud, and abuse. Do you know how much money was spent on Medicare last year? About $80 billion. He's talking about the whole kit and caboodle.
Yep. The environment is definitely in trouble and definitely going to be really impacted by this right here, man. I don't see this being a easy cleanup at all. Great. that looked like the scene out of the movie Twister. You know, that huge, like 1 mile radius long tornado that was in the movie. That's what that looks like. And they look like they driving right into that thing before it shifts and start coming at them. That's crazy. Sheesh.
This month, stargazers will be able to see a blood worm moon and total lunar eclipse. March's full moon, known as the worm moon, will pass into Earth's shadow on March 13th or early March 14th, depending on your time zone. But you need to be in the Western Hemisphere to be able to see it. The moon will appear red because it will be in the shadow of Earth during the lunar eclipse. The more dust or clouds in Earth's atmosphere during the total lunar eclipse, the redder the moon will appear. Any sunlight that's not blocked by Earth will travel through a thick slice of Earth's atmosphere as it heads towards the moon's surface, causing it to glow. And as NASA so poetically puts it, it's as if all of Earth's sunrises and sunsets are projected onto the moon. Hence, it's called a blood moon. The term worm moon refers to March's first full moon before spring, and it may have gotten its name from the earthworms that normally come out around springtime. And if we get any rain during the lunar eclipse, we might see a moonbow, which is like a rainbow, but you may have guessed, it's not caused by the sun's light, but the moon's light. You might see this best in the hours after sunset when the sky is dark and the moon is fairly low in the sky. And skygazers might be able to see Jupiter and Mars during the blood worm moon lunar eclipse.
This is Carl Clifford moments after he killed his ex-girlfriend, her mother and sister in July 2024. Underneath the white sheet is a crossbow which he used to kill sisters Louise and Hannah Hunt after stabbing their mum Carol Hunt to death. CCTV of Clifford shows how he prepared for the murders days before the attacks, buying rope, duct tape and petrol. He was even seen pushing his niece in a pram through a garden centre hours before the murders. After raping his ex-girlfriend Louise and killing her and her family, Clifford escaped and a manhunt began. He was found in a graveyard in Enfield the next day where he had shot himself with a crossbow. In the hours before the murders, Clifford searched for Andrew Tate's podcast, and prosecutors say violent misogyny fueled Clifford's attacks. It is believed he became enraged when Louise ended their 18-month relationship. He's been sentenced to a whole life order, meaning he will never be released from prison. This is Carl Clifford.
And I watched the video of them interrogating him. I mean, that's what it kind of looked like, but at this point, you got so much video evidence. Why? And he's been pretty much, if they're saying convicted already, why are they just doing this for research purposes, trying to understand his psyche, what's going on in his brain? But yeah, I watched a clip of that we reacted to, and I was like, I didn't know they had this. At that point, I only seen him at the counter. Now seeing all this, yeah, this was an open and shut case for real.
Donald Trump has a message for Canada that wants to cut off electricity in the northern United States. Look at it from Truth Social. Based on Ontario, Canada placing a 25% tariff on electricity coming into the United States, I have structured my Secretary of Commerce to add an additional 25% tariff to 50% on all steel and aluminum coming into the United States from Canada, one of the highest tariffing nations anywhere in the world. This goes into effect tomorrow morning, March 12th. Also, Canada must immediately drop their anti-American farmer tariff of 250 to 390%, good Lord, on various U.S. dairy products, which has been long considered outrageous. It is outrageous. I will shortly be declaring a national emergency on electricity within the threatened area, and this will allow the United States to quickly do what has to be done to alleviate this abusive threat from Canada. If other egregious long-time tariffs are not likewise dropped by Canada, I will substantially increase on April 2nd the tariffs on cars coming into the United States, which will essentially permanently shut down the automobile manufacturing business in Canada. Oh, man. Those cars can easily be made in the United States. Also, Canada pays very little for national security, relying on the United States for military protection. We are subsidizing Canada to the tune of more than $200 billion a year. Why? This cannot continue. The only thing that makes sense for Canada to become our cherished 51st state, there he goes again. This would make all tariffs and everything else totally disappear. Canadians' taxes will be substantially reduced. They will be more secure, military and otherwise than ever before. There will no longer be a northern border problem, and the greatest, most powerful nation in the world will be bigger and better than ever. And Canada will be a big part of that. The artificial line of separation drawn many, many years ago will finally disappear. And we will be the safest and most beautiful nation anywhere in the world. And your brilliant anthem, "O Canada," will continue to play, but now representing a great and powerful state, the newest nation that the world has ever seen. And like I said in a previous video that I made yesterday, where is Canada's smoke for the Chinese tariffs? Because they only have smoke for the United States and the tariffs we're putting on them. And Donald Trump is like, oh, no. No. See, they're not going to play with us like this. See, they can put those 200, 300% tariffs on our products going into their country, but they don't want to pay their share when we do it to them. And have no smoke for China when they put a 100% tariff or whatever the number was on Canada. All Trump is basically telling Canada, look, if y'all want to play hardball, we can play hardball. Y'all going to fuck around and end up being the 51st state before you blink an eye.
In the trade war, Canada and China fired the latest shots today. The province of Ontario put a 25% surcharge on electricity sales to Michigan, Minnesota, and New York. Ed O'Keefe will have more about that from Ottawa.
But first, China slapped an additional 15% import tax on American farm products, including pork, poultry, beef, and soybeans.
At the same time, while they're sneakily getting around a lot of our tariffs. Y'all seen that video I posted? Yeah, it's...
And Lana Zach is
crazy.
In the heart of farm country, Mount Vernon, Iowa.
These are all beef cows.
Tim Keegan calls himself a pretty basic Iowa farmer. His family's been working the land in Mount Vernon, a few hours east of Des Moines, for generations. Their livelihood comes from corn, soybeans, and a small herd of 150 cows.
How high are the stakes for you?
It's tough because within agriculture, I mean, we essentially get one chance a year to raise a crop and market that crop and sell that crop.
You don't have like 5 different harvests.
No, it's not like we're a factory where we're constantly putting out widgets every day and we can make a change and the widget's going to come out cheaper or different the next day. So we're forced to be a lot more forward thinking, just the nature of our business.
China is the largest overseas market for many U.S. farm products. Last year, the U.S. exported nearly $13 billion worth of soybeans from farmers like Keegan to China alone, and another $1.5 billion in beef. Now, import tariffs up to 15% from China are hitting cash crops.
I think people within agriculture are hoping that some of this is, these tariffs and stuff will be short-term from a negotiation standpoint. And if they are long-term, they will have some pretty big impacts within the industry.
41 years later, we're still here.
But Mount Vernon's mayor, Thomas Weasler, says even short-term tariffs on the town's farmers could send shockwaves through the economy.
We need them to be successful. And on every level, we need a thriving agricultural community. Otherwise, there's a gap in what we provide to our citizens here. It will ripple down through our main street, through our community, and it'll affect local leadership.
I'm Ed O'Keefe in Ottawa. Today, Canada's largest province, Ontario, added a 25% tariff on the cost of electricity wired to about 1.5 million customers in Minnesota, Michigan, and New York.
Believe me when I say I do not want to do this.
Ontario's Premier Doug Ford repeating a message he first told CBS News last week.
I feel terrible for the American people because it's not the American people who started this trade war. It's one person who's responsible. That's President Trump.
Most Canadian imports are facing a 25% tariff, and President Trump is threatening others on Canadian dairy and lumber that could start next month. The on-again, off-again tariffs anger Canada's new leader.
These are dark days. Dark days brought on by a country we can no longer trust.
Mark Carney, a Harvard-educated economist who once worked for Goldman Sachs, will succeed Justin Trudeau after a race that said
there's dark days. He's talking about for Canada. So just like we're feeling it, they about to feel it, if not harder than we are. And we're feeling it pretty hard already. So, like, come on, man. Like, y'all give us a break. We need to breathe.
Around Trump's tariffs and threats to make Canada the 51st state.
The Americans want our resources, our water, our land, our country.
Think about it. If they succeeded, they would destroy our way of life.
Francois-Philippe Champagne is Canada's Minister of Industry.
I think there's a better understanding from the American people that...
Dang, he basically saying the way we run our things is no way a reflection of the way they do things, and he don't want to run things like we do. Just saying like we just low down over here, pretty much. Sheesh. Like, is it... Are we viewed that bad by outsiders? Like, look at the way they run their country. They run it down over there. Run down. Look at everything. Like, I often ask that question. How are the outsiders viewing us? And I'm starting to hear and see and hear from these outsiders what they think of us. You know, some of that's, you know, coming from a place of anger because of these terrors, but some of that's coming from a place of truth of how they feel about us.
Tariff on Canada is really like a tax on Americans.
You've been involved in U.S.-Canadian relations for many years.
10 years.
Has it ever been this salty?
Never. And it doesn't need to be that way.
Ed O'Keefe joins us now from Ottawa. So, Ed, what else do we expect the Canadians to do in response here?
Well, today, the head of Ontario didn't rule out potentially cutting off that electricity that he sends to Minnesota, Michigan, and New York if this continues. That obviously would be a big pain point. What we don't know yet is how the cost of this is really going to be felt by American households. Arguably, the longer this goes on, inevitably the price will be there, and then we'll see about other tariffs that the Canadians might put in place, retaliating against the ones we're putting on them.
And Ed, normally we see you from the White House. What's the White House saying about what people should think about these economic difficulties?
Well, in part, they're cleaning up the sort of unclear message or the mixed message from the president over the weekend about whether or not he can definitively rule out a recession, which he could not. But they argue short-term stock market pain is designed to readjust the American economy for long-term gain felt more by the working class. And we should point out, over the weekend, the president's tariffs earned a big endorsement from a former critic, the head of the United Auto Workers Union, saying that tariffs are a good thing because it's going to help boost American manufacturing. So we'll see what the political pain looks like alongside the economic hurt many are feeling tonight.